You know that feeling when you order a UPS that looks perfect on the product page, sleek rack-mountable, 1000 VA, 8 outlets, and then you plug it into your server rack and discover the battery only lasts 10 minutes with a modest load, or the noise spikes the moment the inverter kicks in. I've been there, and it's the exact reason I wanted to make this video. I spent a few days pulling apart the specs, reading the fine print, and scrolling through a handful of real-world stories before I even unboxed the Eaton Tripp Lite Series Smart 1000 VA. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the core problem most buyers face. You need reliable, clean power for critical gear, but you also don't want to waste money on a unit that's either overkill or underdelivered. The smart part of this UPS is the double conversion, online design. Unlike line interactive models that switch to battery only when the voltage dips, this unit constantly runs your equipment through the inverter. The result is a true pure sine wave output, which is the gold standard for sensitive hardware. Think network switches, small servers, or a home theater preamp that hates any distortion in the power line. Now, who actually benefits from that level of protection? If you run a home lab with a couple of 8-core servers, a network router, and perhaps a NAS that holds your family's photo archive, the continuous clean power can keep those systems online during those brief sags you get when a large fridge cycles on. The 8 outlets are individually controllable load banks, meaning you can program a graceful shutdown of the NAS while leaving the router alive, all from the front panel, or via the optional network card. That remote monitoring feature is a game changer for anyone who isn't glued to the rack 24/7. You'll get SNMP alerts, battery status, and load percentages straight to your monitoring software, so you can act before a blackout hits. On the flip side, if you're a gamer who just wants a surge protector for a desktop and a couple of monitors, the smart online conversion is probably overkill. The 1000 VA 900W rating will cover a single workstation with a decent graphics card, but you'll quickly see the runtime drop to under 5 minutes under full load. For a typical office environment with a handful of workstations, a line interactive UPS, or even a quality surge strip would be more cost-effective. Let's talk about the practical strengths that show up when you actually install this thing. First, the 2U rack mount form factor slides neatly into a standard 19-inch rack. The depth is modest, so it fits into tighter cabinets without forcing you to rearrange other equipment. The front LCD, while not a full-blown touchscreen, gives you an at-a-glance readout of load, battery charge, and estimated runtime. That's useful when you're troubleshooting a sudden power dip and need to know whether the UPS is already close to its limit. The individual outlet control also means you can turn off non-essential gear during a power event, extending the battery life for the critical devices you actually need to keep running. Another often overlooked benefit is the $250,000 equipment insurance that comes with the unit. For a small business, that coverage can be the difference between a minor inconvenience and a major financial hit if a power event fries a server. The 2-year warranty is pretty standard in this segment, but it's backed by the Eaton Tripp Lite support network, which, in my experience, tends to be more responsive than some of the cheaper off-brand alternatives. Now, the hidden trade-offs. The most common complaint about online UPS units at this size is the heat they generate. Because the power is always being conditioned, the chassis runs warmer than a line interactive model would. In a tightly packed rack without adequate airflow, you might notice your ambient temperature creep up a few degrees, which could affect other equipment that's sensitive to heat. The fan noise, while not deafening, is audible if the rack sits in a quiet office or a home studio. It's not a problem for a server room that already has humming equipment, but it's something to keep in mind if you need a silent environment. Battery runtime is another reality check. The manufacturer's spec sheet will tell you up to 10 minutes at half load, but in practice, you'll see that numbers shrink if you have any high-power devices plugged in. The UPS is designed more for bridge power, keeping you online long enough to initiate a proper shutdown rather than for extended outage coverage. If you need to keep a small server running for an hour during a storm, you'll want a larger capacity unit, or an auxiliary generator. One more nuance: the network card is optional, not standard. If you decide you need remote monitoring, you'll have to purchase the module separately. It's not a huge cost, but it's an extra step that can catch first-time buyers off guard. The installation is straightforward: just a PCIe slot in the back, but you do need to configure it within your network, which may involve opening ports or setting up SNMP credentials. If you're